living my life. How about you?
This exteriors.
Alright guys, we are live, and of course joining us we have Mr. Andrew Kudelka. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody here so we can hear them. Andy, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's good to have you.
Hey, it's nice to be had. Thank you.
Awesome. And of course,
hello guys.
We've got Rodney all the way in Malta. We got Dan in Luxembourg. We've got Luke and Total MK out there from Australia. Tabmock representing from Florida. And me as well as Andy in Chicago town. Chicago. So
I like Chicago town.
yeah, Chi-town. Right?
How about Chicago Land?
Chicagoland.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's probably more accurate.
That's what everyone seems to call it.
Yeah. So we all, I think we already surprised Andy when he called in, but we all got our Mortal Kombat comic books. And ironically, I need your signature on this one, Andy.
Yeah, I took all these to Chicago this year.
Yeah, I gotta bust out with mine. I can't be the only one left out.
There you go. It's awesome. That is awesome stuff.
Sweet.
So I know you've got some pretty awesome questions lined up. So we'll just kind of go in order of the webcams. So Luke, I'll let you. Why don't you kick us off here?
All right. So I know of Andy's work mostly from mythologies, actually. Like I actually thought John Tobias did this cover for the longest time. I didn't know about that until last year when they were giving these out at Combat Con. So I'm wondering, from the start of Mortal Kombat, what exactly was your role with the comic books and other things?
With the comic books, John invited me to ink them for him. He liked the way I worked on his artwork, how I took his pencils and kept his style. I've known John for a while before then, working in the comics scene. After he got out of school, for him, we tried to do some work for a small company that's now defunct called Just Imagine. And that didn't pan out. The company kind of went belly up at that time. And then he ended up going and doing work for Now Comics, which has had a pretty bad reputation for screwing its artists. But he did some Ghostbuster work for them, and occasionally he'd get me to ink his work on the side because he liked the way I worked in. Because we would always hang out, and he would pencil something, I would ink it, just as a pastime even. And when the MK stuff came up, he really wanted to do a comic book, and that was kind of his push to get that comic book made and have me aboard to ink his work. He just appreciated how I took care of his style and really showed respect for it. So that he always kept me in mind for that.
Right. And so after you did the comics, like with the Mortal Kombat games, was there any other work that you did besides
outside of that,
leading up to that?
Yeah, there was a couple of side jobs that John would throw my way. One of them was that Johnny Cage versus Goro poster for Nintendo Power. The one I think some of you are familiar with. The original Danny Pacina has.
Yes.
Nice.
Daniel Pacina has the original. I gave it to him as a gift. So he's going to send me a scanned copy. I don't even have a scanned copy of that. But I gave it to him a while back before I even decided to scan stuff. But I got that job through John. He also gave me work. There was a cutout stand-up cardboard figure of Goro.
I've got that, a picture of it. Galloping Ghost.
I have it somewhere. I was hoping to fish it out, but I couldn't find it. So he had me ink that for him as well. We were pushing the comic book so quickly at the time that a lot of us pitched in to finish coloring it too. So I have a hand in helping color it. Tony Goski, I think he helped as well as Vogel. I mean, all of us were working around the clock to make that comic happen because there was a limit. Yeah, there was a time limit on that. But definitely the cover is John Tobias's pencils. It's my inks over that. I think he did the coloring as well on that because he wanted to have more of a hands-on approach to the cover. But he would always call me up if there was a side job to do some work on MK stuff that was maybe behind the scenes or ahead of the scenes. Recently, I sent Luke a photo of the map too. Let me see if I could pull that out. The one that was used in the background.
Yeah,
the iconic map of elements.
The map of elements, correct.
The sacred
Yeah.
map of the elements.
And Luke was the one that kind of like was, hey man, you got a copy of it? He just randomly asked. I'm like, sure, yeah, let me look for it. And I forgot I had it next on my posters. But yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, this is amazing. You know, Ryan does a lot of giveaways on this stream. If there was a way we could make prints of this for some of the fans, we would love to give a few of these away.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that and finding a printer to do that. I don't know the legal ramifications of doing that. I mean, it's I never really signed any kind of legal contract for this, but I figured there might be something that can be done. I don't see why not. If it's sort of like an interest just to have a copy of it, there might be something.
As long as you're not profiting off of it, if you want, if you sign or something.
Yeah, I'd love to have that on my wall. I
think everybody on this stream would love it. All the hardcore Mortal Kombat fans would absolutely kill to have the map of elements. And then, who knows, maybe we can use the map to find the amulet.
Yeah, exactly. Come back the next session. We gotta, I found this amulet. What? People ask about the writing on here. And there's nothing there. It's just...
It's aesthetic, yeah. I was going to ask, just one more question.
Sure.
The other guy asked a question. The design on the map, like, I've got the picture here.
Oh,
so, like, dead center, you have like sort of like a demonized face with 3 eyes, and in that circle, there's like, I want to say like an eagle or something.
Yeah.
It's a sort of an Uruburu type situation where one is biting the tail of the next animal. One animal bites the tail, the next animal creates like a trinity. It's just one of the images I found fascinating that I thought would be really cool to add to this. It's I think a griffin and a boar with a serpent. Or a wolf-like board at the time when I was doing some referencing at the time, and I thought that was a really cool image to add to this on top of the 4 elements, and then just take it from there. And a lot of it was just me kind of making things up on the fly based on the stuff that I see. I have a lot of books on mythology and references and images. That stuff fascinates me, so I just looked randomly and picked things out that felt right.
All right, and I've got one more question.
Sure.
And me and Ryan were talking about this. This could just be coincidence, or I could just be crazy. But is there a chance that the Freemason logo is in there in the lines that are laid out?
In the picture that I drew?
In the line, yeah, the yellow lines. If you look at it, it looks like you can see the Freemason sort of logo outline of it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's just coincidence or if there was an idea to sort of have that in there as sort of a cultish thing, you know.
I honestly would do stuff like that back then. I wouldn't surprise me if I did it and forgot about it. But a lot of the Freemasonic stuff it's probably a little bit of both, of coincidence and me trying to put it in there because I was into the Freemasons at the time and coming up with imagery and symbols. I mean, like books like that Justin has right there, Secret Sign. Yeah. What? I have stuff like that. Don't make me bust out with my books, man.
Yeah, we'll have a contest. We'll have a book off.
Yeah, book off. All right.
No, actually, I've got a question for you. I'm curious to know. So you and John Tobias, you worked on the Mortal Kombat 1 comic. You worked on the Mortal Kombat 2 comic. You showed us the stuff that you've done for mythologies. I think we've all seen this on screen now. We've all brought our MK1 and MK2 comics, and you brought out the map of elements for us. You were telling us earlier, you were alluding to, I think, some other stuff you started to do with MK Special Forces. Can you show us that?
Oh, that was sort of just me doing my take on the logo for Special Forces. This was when I was working at Midway Games in the Cabinet Art Division. So I would do stuff back then that was sort of just... When there was time in between projects, I would do something like that and see if somebody would find interest in using it, and whether or not they used it, it was up to them. A lot of the stuff I would design there was just me being creative, essentially. And it was fun. I was learning the 3D software at the time, trying to figure it out, get my way around it, because I was more of a traditional artist. So that was me just experimenting, essentially, while my friends were working on Special Forces on the side, trying to push home units. You know, at the time, it was sort of very cutting edge to do games for for the home, and most people were still pushing at Midway to do cabinet games, which, you know, at the time it was sort of shifting from one to the other. But they were sort of the lone pioneers at the time trying to push special forces, and they weren't getting enough support, which was really a hard thing when you don't get enough support from a company. That for them they were just separate from everybody else, and I found it fascinating, and I knew John, so I was like, hey, I'll try it. I'll put my fingers in this and see if they like it.
It was definitely a hard sell, especially since MK Mythologies went straight to home. It's kind of hard to say, oh, now we're going to try and go back into the arcades again. It's almost like they jumped ship.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And essentially that did lead to a sort of a jumping of the ship where everybody ended up, there was Studio Gigante that was created shortly after that. It didn't really open its doors publicly for several years, but that's where a lot of people were starting to drift away and be involved more in independent companies, independent creation.
Now that's John Tobias's company that did Hal Fang.
Yeah.
Now, how far back do you and John go? Because obviously Mortal Kombat wasn't your first collaboration together.
No. We go back as far as, I want to say, high school at the time. He was in a graffiti group called Smog, based on the Hobbit dragon, which is pretty cool. And I got to know a lot of those people that we all hung out with together were in the graffiti group. They're all from the neighborhood. Design, Casper, you know, just so many people, Disrock, just people I grew up with that were into not only graffiti, but they would be into breaking. They'd be into all these parties we tried to throw on the South Side. So there was that going on. There was martial arts going on with another group of people, and there was comic books, there was Dungeons and Dragons. So you had all these nerd things that were flourishing in the 80s for kids my age and my friends. So we just kind of drifted together when he was doing comic book stuff, and I was like, wow, your comic book stuff's great. And he saw my comic book stuff. He was like, your comic book stuff's great. So we just nerded out on each other's work, and then we'd hang out. I'd play video games at his house while he'd be doing other things, or I would draw a picture, he would ink it, or he'd draw a picture, I would ink it. We'd have like these circles where we draw pictures and have fun drawing them, like whether it be imaginary Star Wars characters or whatever. We just have fun creating things out of the blue. So that's kind of where we developed our relationship. And that's sort of how we met a lot of the people that got involved in MK at the time. Kurt Chiarelli created the maquette that ended up being Goro, was another person that John brought in. And I knew him from different circles of people. It was very strange, but a lot of the people that we were just a bunch of oddballs, and we had a lot of different nerd-like interests, and we just gravitated towards each other. Some would drift apart, some would come back in, but a lot of us were just passionate about what we did. We didn't always get along, some of us, but that's just, you know, life. You're not always gonna, not everything's gonna be perfect, but a lot of creative people were just kind of circling around each other, which was really cool.
Well, that's really cool, the way you guys would nerd out over each other's stuff and kind of collaborate and put something together. Now we're all nerding out over your work, obviously.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. It's nice to be noticed, and I normally am very private and very introverted person because I like working on my stuff, you know, world building in my head and creating the stuff on my own. But you know, it's great to find people who are really interested, and just it reminds me of growing up with the same types of people. Like that's what you guys remind me of. It's like people who be like, oh, that's cool, oh, that's cool. You just get into the element of the creation of it, you know, and what was behind it, and how things kind of fit together, and it's a really fun thing to get into.
Oh man, definitely. One of the things I love doing is kind of getting into the heads of the developers. Seeing where you were at. I know.
Are you gonna post Skull out? Are you gonna post
John Tobias about this book?
Oh wow, nice. There's
stuff like that. No, it's really cool to get into your headspace, you know, and see where you're at when you did what you did.
Yeah, a lot of us were into martial arts, and there's stories of us. I didn't get involved in this, but there's stories of a lot of close friends of mine who would get into playing outdoors in the park and dress up like ninjas, and basically role play. And it's funny because they would do that, and I didn't know them that well at the time. I was just starting to get to know them, so I didn't join in. But there were smoke bombs, and there was weird stuff. They would role play there, like LARP it, and then this is before even LARPing existed. I would create stuff for my school friends, where I would create maps and then hide treasure throughout my neighborhood and have them try to find these things with clues. So I would have these little tokens and toys, and if you could find them, you could keep them. So it was just fun stuff like that we did. It was just Yeah, treasure hunts, martial arts fights, joking around with each other. Rich Divizio, in fact, that's kind of one of the first times I got to know Rich Divizio. This is a fun little anecdotal story. I was taking Taekwondo at the time, and I was still in grammar school. He was a neighborhood kid that me and him would always like talk to each other about nerd stuff. But he was really funny because he was almost pompous about it, but he had heart, so we got along in a way. And one time he saw me come out of class, and he was taking wushu at the time. And I was playing, I think Star Wars or Dragon's Lair or something at the corner. And he saw me. He's like, "Hey, you do Taekwondo? Show me your form." And I'm like, "What? I'm just playing a video game." "No, come on, show me your form. Let's see your form versus my form." And he wanted to go outside and do a wushu form in front of me while I did Taekwondo. And wushu forms are visually stunning because they're all about jumping around and doing flips. So I was like, "No, man, you're gonna do some crazy stuff." And I'm like, "I'll just sit here and play games." But that was my relationship with Rich. It was always sort of like this one-upping of each other, but in a playful way. It wasn't like a bullying thing, but it was sort of like that's how I got to see him in the neighborhood. And I want to say Rich was probably the first person that I knew that drew me into the circle of the rest of the group that ended up me connecting John Tobias with those guys. Because at the time that Tobias was working on MK, he didn't know any of the wushu guys, the martial arts guys. So he asked, that's sort of what I guess helped John create the visual aspect of it by having people he knew that were into martial arts and be like, "Hey, can you guys come in?" Because it was sort of like a fringe thing at the time. There was not a lot of people were doing it, but these guys were actually practicing it and learning from the masters and trying to practice wushu. And I was doing my own martial arts, but either learning from them or just doing my own stuff. But I knew John and connected them all. So that was a really nice moment to be there and facilitate the assist sort of thing, where you're just kind of on the side and be like, "Hey, you guys should know each other." And he's like, "Yeah, I definitely need these guys." So it worked out. It worked out for them really well.
A question related to Richard Divizio. We have a question here.
Sure.
Did you do a werewolf comic book featuring Richard Divizio? No.
Oh, I did with Richard Divizio. I did another comic book called Mongrel, which is a werewolf comic, and I could show you.
Yeah, how many issues is that? That's John Vogel's comic, by the way, fellow comic artist off of Skitter.
Yes.
He's the one who asked that question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this one, there was 3 issues, and...
Son of a bitch!
There, if you could kind of see his face.
Wow.
I decided to use them as photo reference for the comic book, and I kind of wanted to do the same thing, where it's like, I wanted to use friends of mine in the book itself and just have them sort of like role play and then illustrate them. And part of this stemmed from me knowing Alex Ross at the time, where he was doing a similar thing, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool."
I was in Chicago. I was just there a couple weeks ago, and at Galloping Ghost Arcade, they just opened up the gym and martial arts studio, and your name got mentioned that you're going to be involved doing some artwork for them. So, are you at liberty to say anything more about that?
I am working on something with a few people there. I'm creating some artwork for them to kind of, I don't want to say too much, but it's basically it's trying to create something nostalgic but more modern for them to be able to have images with their presentation at conventions, so they could show people or hand it out to people. So I'm working on some artwork for them, and I was there with Daniel Pacina and taking some photos of him to see if I could incorporate some his character positions, his moves, roles, and create a new illustration, sort of like a montage piece. So yeah, I'm working on that. With another piece of work that I did an old black and white sketch for Rich Divizio, and he gave me a copy of it, and I don't have the original. I couldn't find it, so what I did is I scanned it, blew it up, blue lined it, and now I'm redrawing it. I'm going to give it to him because he kind of wanted a newer version. I thought it'd be a nice work. I don't know if you could see this, but I'm working on a montage that never really saw the light of day. It was sort of just me having fun.
Great.
But it's an old drawing that I'm kind of modernizing and updating right now, so I'm going to color it. It was only just a black and white drawing that I did, a really small one, so I'm kind of updating that for him and have him publish that somewhere, maybe.
That's awesome.
That would be great. Are you gonna draw Doc Mack? Is he gonna be one of the people that you draw at some point?
Actually, Doc Mack would be a cool character to draw. If he's interested, I think I'm sure he'd be like one of the guys. Be like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, maybe I could work with him on something. He's very optimistic kind of guy. I like that.
Yeah, very nice guy.
That would be
You know, Luke and I have been asking a lot of questions. Ryan, Dan, Rodney, you guys have anything you want to ask?
Yeah, actually, I was curious. Did you do anything with the instruction manual that came in the games, Andy?
Probably not, but the work that I did that was inked might have been reproduced there. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of that stuff at the time I remember seeing and be like, oh, that's my stuff that I did. But it was sort of like you do it and pass it on, and it's work for hire. You don't get to make royalties or anything else of that work. So that was kind of the situation. However, John Tobias liked following the old school comic rules to give people who are the creators of something a viable vested interest. So he gave me half of his pages of the original art of those books. So I'm a proud owner of still a lot of the original comic pages that are black and white. He even gave me, at the time, before computers, they used to do word balloon acetate over the artwork. So you could see the word balloons. It's a sheet that's over the inks.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, very cool.
Well, that's how it's done.
So he gave me a few of those. That was back then. And I even have, which is kind of cool, you guys might find this fascinating stuff here. Let me see if I can fish it out real quick.
This MP is fascinating.
Let's see.
Round 1. Fight.
Yeah, I have some stuff where they're selling the t-shirts, I think, in the back, and I have some of that.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it.
Oh.
I always want that T-shirt. I'd see it in the back of the book. Actually, well, hang on. I've got it. Sorry.
You probably do have it. Yeah.
I can't wear it though. It's a small size.
Oh, I know where it is. I put it at the actual book itself. Hold on a second. There's in the back of the MK collectible comics. There's a couple pages that have like more promotional work, and I put it in my binder here. Let me see. So you can kind of see.
That looks like the one from the second game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, MK2.
Yeah, there you go. It's the layout for that was printed.
Oh,
and
there's the CD. Yeah.
I
Still
saw
like
that.
that CD.
I think I've
have
seen.
some of the stuff on the side here. So I just kept all that. It just has some scribbled notes and where to put it, and then this one. I don't know if you remember this part of the book. The
Oh, I
attention.
love that.
Yeah, that invitation is awesome.
That was in the PC version, and when I first got the Mortal Kombat 1 arcade, I printed it off and I put that as the marquee because I didn't have the top sign. I put that up there, and people were like, "Where's that from?" They kept asking me, "Where's that from?" Because it had made it into the PC version. That text.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy. That how this work has a life of its own, and I mean, people would just kind of take whatever was available and use it for other things and repurpose it. And that's sort of the way the film kind of worked, where there would be props and they would need it and they repurpose it from other films. And I think that's cool. In video games, it's the same thing, pretty much, essentially. So here's one more thing. I'm sorry, I was just going to show you a little John Tobias Ghostbusters art really quick that he let me have.
Oh, what?
Oh, wow.
I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan, so that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a nice little gift from him way back in the day.
I didn't even know he worked on Ghostbusters, man.
Yeah, it's not a proud moment in the comics only because the company itself, Now Comics. If you look up Now Comics Chicago, there's a lot of horror stories of artists getting screwed over. So it's not a proud moment in Chicago comic history. We've had our dark side there.
Yeah, but that artwork.
Well, you have nothing to be ashamed of. It's not like you were the owners who were screwing over the artists.
No. It's sort of just like you don't like being screwed over, and it sort of became at the time. It's almost like a rite of passage for a lot of people. It's like you're gonna be screwed over. You got to expect it, and a lot of people would take advantage of each other. Oh, look at that!
Awesome. And guys,
That is nice.
I've got
This from the PC.
Yeah, the tattoos that came with the PC version, and
They didn't come with the PC version in Australia. I don't know why. We got screwed.
But it is only on the black one, I think. It is only on the black version. Black box.
Yeah, okay. We had the Virgin, like the European redistributed version. Yeah. We didn't get that one. As was a different box.
But it exists another version, the regular one with a, I don't know how to call that in English.
I also have somebody else who's going to Skype in with us, guys. Unfortunately, I just got a message from Mr. Epcar. Just a quick update. He got booked last minute, cannot make the interview, so we're going to have to reschedule with Mr. Epcar. However, I have somebody who literally stepped in and is willing to fill in right now, and that would be Rich Divizio himself.
I knew it. I knew it.
Okay. Awesome.
So
I barely even got to speak to Rich at Combat Con. I was so busy getting autographs. I wanted to interview him, and I didn't get the chance. I was spewing.
So,
Well, Andy, before we end this, I did want to find out. Kevin Smith had one of those movies. I forget which one it was. It was either Mallrats or Chasing Amy.
Chasing Amy. I already know what you're gonna ask. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's that one scene where they're making fun of the inker and be like, "You're nothing but a tracer." What's your response to that? Can you set the record straight?
Well, okay, with the tracer thing there is a technical aspect of tracing, but if you don't feel the artwork, you're not an artist, because essentially you have to be able to feel creative while you're working, and you're embellishing what is already there. Because sometimes the stuff is not completely filled out, and it's up to you to give it that edge, to fill out the areas that weren't colored or weren't drawn in. So it just depends on the team. I've seen pencils that are basically scribbles, and the inker takes it to another level. But for John, he was comfortable with how I took care of his pencils. So I would say it's a little bit of both, just to be safe. Because honestly, I did want to make his stuff shine, so I didn't want to put embellish my own artwork into it. There are a few pages. There's actually one page that I redrew completely and then inked from his stuff. So it was me being more just in his, like a forger. If anything, instead of a tracer, I was a forger. And there was a talent to that, but I love John's stuff so much that it didn't bother me. It wasn't the feeling came out while I was doing it. It wasn't sort of whimpering like, oh, I gotta trace more stuff.
Is this the page? Is this the one that was more you and less John?
Nope. No.
Okay. It's very hard to figure it out. Very hard.
There's one page. If you can figure out the one page that I redrew completely, I'll give you some sort of prize. If you could figure out the one page, there's one page in the MK book that I completely redrew.
Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Nope. Treasure hunt. See, I like doing treasure hunt. I just gave you guys one. So yeah,
I don't know if we'll ever be able to crack the code, man. I just don't see how we can do it. Although I think this one's pretty cool because it has Johnny Cage's shadow kick in it. That's pretty.
Oh yeah. That's from the first one. Yeah, I remember that. I was doing a lot more stuff. That's in the first book. I was doing a lot more epitaph stuff. So a lot of the stuff that I did embellish, it's a funny little another anecdote. I would embellish Rich Divizio's hair. He would have a lot of hair on his arms and on his chest, and I'd sit there with the epitaph, and I would sit there and have full on hair. Yeah, I would.
All right, so the one that you embellished, it's not in the second comic. It's in the first one, right?
No, in the second one. It's in the one I redrew. The one I completely redrew.
The one you completely redrew is in the second one. Correct.
Oh man, I've never opened it. Do I open it? It's never been opened since I got it up from eBay.
Well, it's something that we're.
Wouldn't be this one where Kano's holding up the body of some kind of a demon, would it?
Nope. No, not that one.
I'll let Justin guess it.
I don't know, man. I'm not so good at this. It all looks so consistent. Like it doesn't. There's nothing that stands out as a sudden contrast. Like, well, that's different.
Yeah, I really tried to match the style. I wasn't happy with how I made an element on that page, so I decided to redraw the whole page and add that and ink it better.
Wouldn't be this one where Shao Kahn is like in the shadows in his throne, huh?
No, that one was fun. No, that one I didn't have to. It's kind of an arbitrary page, but there's an element in there. Let's just put it that way.
An element.
Okay, well, what about this one? This one's amazing, where Shao Kahn rips all the skin off of Shang Tsung's body and he goes back to his younger self.
No, not that one.
I can't. I have to give up, man. I can't do it.
I can let you know. I can leave it up in the air if you want.
Okay, tell us. Yes, hold it up for us. Let us know.
All right, let me pull it out then really quick here. Let me show you which one.
Oh, awesome. Hey, shout out to my boss who's watching. That's RB Niche 2012. My boss is actually tuning in right now.
Hey, Niche, what's up?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
This is the map that you showed me at the first Shang Fight Night. This black wallet. I
With
saw
Johnny
that.
Cage floating on the island.
Yeah, the water scene. I wasn't happy with the way the water splashes turned out, so I redrew the whole page.
Nice.
But I obviously used John's style because I had a light board. Actually, that was Tony Goski's light board. I would always borrow it from him. He's like, "Hey, when are you gonna give me back the light board?" soon. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know. The water was the thing. The element of water was. I wanted to make it look good, but not too inky. So that was the thing that was driving me nuts when I was drawing that part, or inking it, tracing, embellishing, forging.
You know, that scene in the comic, the way the plot unfolded, it just seems so great that whenever I go and play one of the more modern Mortal Kombat games like Shaolin Monks or Mortal Kombat Reboot in 2011, it just feels like, they got this wrong. It's supposed to go down the way it was shown here.
Yeah, what are you guys doing breaking continuity? There's canon. Stick to canon. Yeah.
Stick to the lore.
That's awesome.
Oh, let's see. What else do I have here that I haven't shown you? There was some stuff that on the side, behind the scenes, that John wanted me to do work on, and it was Shao Kahn. I did some sketches for him to kind of change it up a bit. He sent me a lot of copies and actually a couple original marker designs that he had of the characters.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice. You see them quickly in the Mortal Kombat 3 making your video, because I always wondered where the back sketches were.
Oh, the
You
ones on the
see-
walls, the cool ones.
They're
Yeah?
looking through the folder.
Yeah.
Is that folder?
I'm
guessing
not
it
sure.
is.
I don't recall if that's the one. That may be one or two of these, because the rest are photocopies, and I think he accidentally put one in. He might have that back, but it's a marker colored one. I think this is the one that he ended up giving me.
Yeah,
But
it shows ants and that. Yeah.
And that showed up in a few gaming magazines as well, some of these.
oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't kept abreast, but that's cool that these things keep showing up. And again, going back to that whole having a life of its own aspect, I think that's great. That's really cool. Here's the Shao Kahn. I don't know if you could see the pencil sketch.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
And here's just some like versions of it that were more sketchy. Me just trying different things with him, and it was just at a time where he was working on it. He wanted to have my take on it and to see how I would envision what he had, and that's sort of what led to having me work with him on the Tao Fang stuff later on. Is just being able to see his work in a different angle and different light. So
I have a lot of the Taofeng concept artwork saved on my computer that I've found online.
oh,
I,
nice.
like, dug up. You know.
Very. You still have it? You're saying it?
Yeah, I found some pictures online of concept stuff and that, you know. So I took all my Taofeng stuff over, but unfortunately John Tobias cancelled. I'm back on.
Yeah, so one of the artists that worked on that, Andrew Arcanti is another artist who's a concept guy that did some amazing work. He's doing some stuff right now, if I'm not mistaken, for the Justice or the Injustice. I'm sorry, the new stuff that's in NetherRealm. He's also an amazing artist, so that he was a great person to work with.
Yeah. That's really awesome, Andy. You got so much cool stuff, and also joining me if you want to. Can I call it? No. Yeah, Anthony. I have Anthony Wank, who
Very
was
cool.
from the Book of Remembrance. I don't know if you heard of that, Andy.
Book of Remembrance?
For Mortal Kombat. It's like an encyclopedia of all the game's history.
Oh, no, I haven't. I haven't heard of that. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, he's one of the co-creators of that, and he's here in studio, but I think he's on the phone at the moment. And then, of course, Rodney, do you have any good questions? Anything you want to ask me? You've been sitting there very patiently, all the way in Malta.
What's your favorite memory of those times? And
My favorite memory of that time was being able to hang around with the creators, hanging out with people who are creating things without pressure of trying to be something at that point. Everybody was so new and fresh to the whole entertainment scene that there wasn't this pressure of trying to live up to anything. It was sort of just creating what you loved, and being part of that wave was really fun. It's like you're just doing stuff with a frenzy, with an obsessive frenzy to get it done, because there's a time limit. If you don't follow a time limit, so you could work on projects forever, but if you don't finish it and you don't do it, it never sees the light of day. But there was this drive to get it done because you had people who wanted to publish it and wanted to create it. So there was this, I loved the energy level of everybody getting together and having like a team mentality of just, let's do this, let's push, let's get it out. And this was without trying to live up to something, because everybody was just doing it because they wanted to do it rather than living up to an image or something that already pre-existed. Oh, look at that. Yeah, you got one of the old concept designs.
From Terrifying 2.
Yeah, that was for Tao Feng 2. That never happened. That was one of the concept pieces I did. I was looking forward to doing that. It was like a monkey boy martial arts character.
I've got them all.
You got all 4. Yeah, we were going to do an evolutionary phase where they would grow, and the higher level they got, the cooler they would look, more godlike.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have a lot of the originals for that somewhere stashed.
I think these are just from your site online or something. Like, I just dug them up online, and I was like, oh, Terrifying, save.
Nice. That's very cool to see that brought back to life. Yeah, it would have been nice to see the sequel. We ended up going to wrestling because it was more of a safer bet to do wrestling at the time rather than the proprietary work. But when we worked on Tao Feng, it was a lot of creative fun. It was sort of the same feeling again. That's another good memory. Speaking of a memory, Rodney, working on Tao Feng and just sort of doing it under the radar. When you work on projects under the radar and you're working on it without any kind of expectations, you have this free reign to do things that people don't expect, and people aren't trying to destroy your project before it comes out. I mean, you see, like currently with the stuff with The Last Jedi, how there's a war of expectations right now of how the movie should turn out, how the fan base is one side is upset, another side is very pleased. So there's this war, a very divisive war of like how it should have gone creatively. And when you're working on something for the first time, you don't have that over your head. You're just doing it because you want to do it, you love it, you want it to be as authentic as possible. I think that's the word, authentic, is what we were trying to do. That was a memory I love having, of doing things authentically for the love of it, rather than being like, I want this to be great, I want this to be famous, I want people to know me. That wasn't really on our minds. There was ego, sure, but you need sort of a confidence level to be able to create things that have never, really, that are borrowed on pieces of other things, but you're still creating something new,
Right.
Andy, you made some really good points. The word that comes to mind when you were talking about that is sequelitis. Like, how do you do a 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th installment of something, keep it fresh, but not feel like you lost your way? It's a very difficult line to walk.
Definitely.
And in the beginning, you don't have any of that.
Exactly.
So going back to the beginning and some of those early days, the side art cabinet of Mortal Kombat 1 has a picture of Dan Pesina doing like this great kind of jump punch. He's like the face of Mortal Kombat since his image on the side. Correct. And there's like a dragon behind him, like a big yellow golden dragon. And Anthony, I know you're on the stream listening to us, the encyclopedia dude. We were having a discussion about this. We can't find a good version of that dragon anywhere. Is that something that you would have in your archives?
Me personally, I do not have that dragon in my archives. It would be cool if I did, and I don't know where that came from. Honestly, I wish I did. That's actually a really cool point of history there. I don't know where that dragon came from, or where it went.
Did you draw the dragon, or was that Ray Kazaja?
No, I was talking with John Tobias, and he said that he drew the because I asked him what happened to the original files. Maybe he has them somewhere in archive. And he said, no. Basically.
Yeah, I had no hand in that. That's all. Yeah, someone else.
Hey Ryan, just had an idea, mate. I can send you the sketches that I was just showing on the stream, and we'll put them on the Team Ripset Facebook. What do you reckon?
Yeah, if Andy's cool with that, yeah.
Oh, I'm fine with that. Definitely, yeah. Anything to push that stuff on.
So people could check out Andy's work that he did on Tao Feng.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share that, man. I'd love to get that out there. Definitely awesome. And I'm still waiting to hear back from Rich. I don't know if he had to get back from lunch, but we'll see if we.
Oh, he was doing this during his lunch break, huh?
Yeah, he was watching during his lunch break. But I reached out to him on Facebook. I'm trying to get him to see if maybe he can jump in. But unfortunately, like I said, yeah, we kind of missed out on Richard Epcar last minute. He booked something literally last minute, which I totally understand, especially in that industry. It's crazy and it's very fast paced.
Don't worry, we'll get him another time. We'll get him.
We will. We're already working on rescheduling him. So I literally, he feels awful, but it's like, dude, don't worry about it. Like we'll get it in there. It's cool.
Hey, it's Mercury retrograde, man. Everybody's talking about how it's hard to get things in line, so I'm sure he'll come back.
I'm gonna see if we can get Rich right now. He just popped up, so.
Cool. I'll hold out for Rich. We'll reminisce.
I don't know if we'll be able to get him. I'm gonna try to see if we can Skype him in. I'm trying to call him right now, so we'll see.
Well, that'll be great if we can get him. You can bring out those Mongrel comics again, huh?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I could show you the originals and show his big mug, his face, the characteristic face of his. I always like drawing his face. That was really fun to do. That's one of the reasons why I picked him. He's got that. He's very animated in that look.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does the great facial range, great facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, are there any other really are there any titles that you want to talk to us about that like Mongrel, like Mortal Kombat, like what other comics have you done?
Mostly side stuff. It was the comic stuff that I did at the time. It would be either like side story or backstory or short story work. I had one that I'm proud of that was Kevin Nolan. I don't know if you guys are in the comic scene, but he's a famous illustrator, Kevin Nolan, who inked one of my pieces from back in the 90s. I always enjoyed that piece. But recently I did some coloring books actually before the whole coloring book thing. That was kind of fun. I was in
color. Okay, cool.
Yeah, this was sort of like a side project that I did, where just kind of me having fun with work. You kind of want to do stuff like that when you have a child. So when I had a son, I decided I wanted to do some coloring books, and then suddenly it became a big thing to have adult coloring books. I didn't even plan on that or expect it, but apparently it became a huge move. But other than that, the last major thing I did was the Mongrel book, and since then it's been mostly just independent project work on the side here and there. Doing video game stuff maybe on the side here and there, but other than that, it's just me doing work on my own, keeping projects going that I rather sort of like going back to that stage I told you about earlier, where you're working on something without the expectations and having fun doing it, and if it doesn't work, you move on to another one and see if that works. But other than that, I think Mongrel was the last big comic thing that I did that I pushed out. It was on Kickstarter for a bit too, but it was sort of like a culmination of finishing something and having something complete that you can kind of show people. So if Rich comes on, we can have some stories about that.
Are there any other video games that you've been involved with, like Tao Fang, and besides Mortal Kombat?
Tao Fang, Mortal Kombat. I worked a little bit on the Tony Hawk game when we had Robomoto. There was a few projects with them that I worked on. There was a period just before Midway was liquidated that I was working on several games, whether it was Blitz, Ballers. There was even an attempt to resuscitate Robotron. We were trying to create something independently from the rest of the company during our downtime to see if we could do a proof of concept. So that was fun. It was sort of, I mean, the Chicago scene with video games is kind of like the comic scene back in the 90s, where there would be companies that would pop up and then fall apart, usually go bankrupt and then move on, whether it be through just mishandling of funds or just the expenses of it were out of hand, or just the projects didn't pan out the way people expected it to. I've worked everywhere from Midway to EA Chicago. There was a Marvel actually that never saw the light of day with EA Chicago that was really interesting at the time. A lot of people like Josh Way and Dave Nikicic were on that one. So that's with every successful project, something like Mortal Kombat, you'll have 10 to 20 projects that never make it because they'll be either underfunded or something will it'll hit a snag, or it'll just go under the rug. People will just brush it under the rug and move on to the next project because it just doesn't look viable at the time. And I've been involved in a few of those. There was even an Indiana Jones game that I was looking forward to when I was working with Robomoto that I wish would have seen the light of day. There was stuff I was working on with those guys that were just really exciting, and I was dying to get that to happen. But the politics of that was Lucasfilm decided no longer to work with third-party companies, and they unplugged the financing, so we were let go, not for lack of trying, but because it was just a budget move, a producer's move, and they let go. This was before Disney bought out LucasArts and everything, but it was a really exciting project to sit there and do an Indiana Jones game. We had some amazing stuff behind the scenes planned out for that.
Was that around 2008?
With the Indiana Jones project was not 2008. That was, I want to say, closer to 2011. 2008, I was at Midway with their division that was sort of I forget the name of the division, but it was a division of people that would help and assist other people in the company who were working on projects that were running late or needed a hand to finish. So I was at Midway at that time before it was liquidated. But it was, I want to say this was 2011-ish when we were working on Indiana Jones.
Yeah, because in 2008, I went into the Lucasfilm booth at E3.
Nice.
And they were doing an indie game, and I think I've got those images somewhere, you know.
Yeah, this never went that far, so they wouldn't have been that one. It was probably the game that there was a game that I think it had to do with Atlantis or something. I don't remember, but there was a game that was published around that time, and we were using that as reference. But we wanted it. We were working on something that was sort of out of left field with the concept, and it really got us in the door, which was funny because it was basically just through love and respect and reverence of the project that got us as far as it did for a company that wasn't AAA. I mean, the stuff we were doing creatively was showing a lot of angles of Indiana Jones that people weren't really looking at, and I really wish that would have went further.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
You know, that reminds me that around that time, somewhere between 2008 to 2011, somewhere near the very end of the Midway era, Ed Boon had posted something on his Twitter about a mobile game of Marble Madness, like a mobile port of Marble Madness that you could tilt your phone around and control the marble and get it to go to the end of the level. That sounded like it would have been really cool, and it never saw the light of day.
Exactly, and that's the side of it that you never really see. For every game that makes it, there's several that don't. And going even further, there's people I know in my life that for everybody that's made it successfully, I mean, technically successfully is usually financial and your name is out there, even though I don't really see that as generally what success means. But that's, for every person that's done that, there's several people around them that might not have made it. I have friends of mine that I feel are amazing and intelligent and have creative ideas, but for whatever reason, they end up having to do the 9-to-5 work and supporting their family or just daily living, that their work never sees the light of day. So they're kind of on the, they end up becoming, you know, on the sidelines creators that never really have their work out there shown. And that's just the way of the beast, you know. Survival of the idea is the way I like to see it. And it's unfortunate, but it's like a survival of the fittest. You have an idea, but it only survives as long as you can make it happen, you know?
Yeah. Some people are just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It doesn't always work out for everybody. Even if they have talent and skill, there's other things going involved. Like you gotta know people, and it's timing. It's a lot of things that go into what makes you a success.
You definitely hit the nail on the head. It's networking, know who you know, and the timing is that the moment that somebody needs something and you're available. And then that's the fun part, because sometimes there's no time to sit there and deliberate whether or not this is good. You just do it. Yeah. And that's the part I like, where you're just creating and you're just having fun creating, and you don't have a time to sit there and have boardroom meetings. Is this what we want? Is this what's popular right now? Do we need a test study to see if people like this? No, you just do it because it feels right, and it's following intuition, which to me has, I think, the same chances of succeeding. If you put your heart into something, it may succeed and may not, rather than sitting there and trying to micromanage it to death, where it no longer has that creative energy to see if it works or not. It'll have probably the same chances of succeeding or failing, just like anything else. Yeah,
exactly. Dan, do you have anything you want to add here? Because I see you sitting pretty silent lately.
Yeah, Dan.
No, I listen a lot of what you're saying. It's cool. Actually, what was one of your favorite Mortal Kombat game on arcade? Did you play them?
I played when they first came out. Mortal Kombat. We were in San Diego. I went to San Diego Comic-Con with several people. I went with John Tobias, John Vogel, Tony Goski, Tim Coleman. He was another artist at the time that was at Midway.
He's
Alex
in the
Ross.
pit.
I'm sorry?
Sorry to interrupt, but Tim Coleman's actually in the pit. He's the dead body that's arched over the spikes at the bottom.
Yes. There's a little footnote. If you guys have a footnote, I'll pause. Yeah, Tim Coleman. So we went out to San Diego Comic-Con in '92 for the first time, and the Mortal Kombat game was just happening. And I remember seeing the game and how many people were into it at the time. and I was intimidated. I was like, I played it a couple times in the arcade, but I would get my ass handed back to me, and I was like, man, this ain't for me. I don't want to be humiliated every time I play this game. But I would try to find that. For me, I think it was Sub-Zero that I would always gravitate towards, and I got used to his moves on the joysticks, and I was like, well, this is the guy that I use. And after a while, people would get so good at it, they would get past all that in a heartbeat, and I just was like, all right, I give up. I'm done. I'd rather stick to real martial arts. I could do stuff for real. Come on.
Right.
So
Did you ever play at Times Square Arcade?
that was Times Square.
Yeah,
the
in
Times
Chicago.
Square. No, I haven't. No, I haven't played there. The one in New York, you're talking? No.
No, Chicago.
Oh, Chicago? No. The one. Are you talking about the one that was on the north side, over by? Was it Belmont? Where is that?
I think it's near
Clark
Diversity.
and Clark and
Clark and Belmont.
Clark and Brooklyn.
Clark and. I think I know which one you're talking about. There was an area there on the north side that was known for not only fashion but clubs and stuff, and that's kind of. No, I think I did play there a couple times actually. I did go there.
It was the first place that they put Mortal Kombat.
Oh, nice.
The first arcade.
Yeah, I think I might have gone there once or twice after it came out. But again, there were so many people with their quarters up and ready to play. And they were,
imagine the line along the glass.
The lines used to be so long.
I was like, man, I'll stick to Dungeons and Dragons and practicing martial arts on the side. That's my thing. And I'll just do that. But I do remember how popular it was, and hanging out and going with John in the background and being like, I'm standing next to the creator. And they would he'd be there just watching from the sidelines, seeing how well it was doing. That was fun.
Did you see the movies?
Yeah, I did see the movies. The first one I enjoyed. I remember enjoying the first one, and then the second, I couldn't watch it except for some of the creature designs. Some of the creature designs were cool, but other than that it's famous for its dialogue. So, but hey, whatever keeps the fame going,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Very true.
Well, the first one still holds up very well. Everybody, I think, universally agrees that's probably the best video game movie adaptation of all time. It's still called that to this day.
That's true, because there's not been a good movie made since then. Who is the producer that's always who always makes video game movies and gets and they do horribly? Yeah, he's a special kind of guy. That guy, with his boxing matches.
He got into some boxing matches with some of his critics who didn't like his movie.
Critics, yeah.
He should have a movie about his life. It'd be sort of like The Room with the one that was just
Disaster Artist.
I could see it being similar to that, where you're more interested in the person than you are with what they produce, and there's a lot of. Any more questions? Any more? I don't know if Rich Divizio is going to be able to make it. I was hoping I could get him on here with me so we could both nerd out.
Yeah. I've got another question. Did you do any other props or anything in Mortal Kombat Mythologies?
I think the only thing I have is the map. I don't know what. I think that's all I developed at the time, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Yeah, it would be nice to have some more stuff, but no, I think that's the only thing I have.
You didn't develop
the amulet. Probably the coolest thing in the game. Sorry.
No, it is. I agree. Did you build you didn't build the amulet, I guess. Then did you build any props for any of the games?
No. I think that map was the only thing I did at the time. If there was anything else, my amnesia is probably kicking in, because I don't remember making anything else. Because that's sort of my memories are kind of faded for some certain things. So no, I don't think I did anything else for that time other than the map. The map was one of the bigger things that I did.
Well, okay. Earlier in the stream, you mentioned that you knew Alex Ross, the comic book artist legend. You must be aware that he did the cover for the special edition of Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe.
Yes. He's been friends with a lot of us for a while. John Vogel, John Tobias. There's Vince Prost, another artist at the time at Midway. Midway had a great concept artist division, and Alex Ross was friends with one of them, and amongst all the other Midway MK creators. Yeah. Vince Prost. Yeah, you got some of this stuff.
Vince Prost. Oh, there's the MK versus DC by Alex Ross.
And Alex he's I love Alex. He's a great artist. He's always been in the. Yeah, look at you guys. You got all this stuff. Yeah. So that was really cool that he worked on the project because and there's Vince's stuff. That's some of his
Vince's stuff, yeah.
Yeah, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. He's a phenomenal artist. Alex Ross, obviously, he's an amazing artist, but he's a down to earth guy too. And he would always hang out with us, go to lunch, just keep in touch. We've all known each other. I want to say, like I said, since '92 is when I got to meet Alex on the trip to San Diego, and I kind of knew him from the comic art scene here in Chicago. A lot of great artists here. We all would hang out and go to the bars and have sort of get-togethers where we'd share ideas and stuff. And Alex was that type of guy where he would want to get other artists involved in projects and have different people do different sketches. I did some sketches for his Kingdom Come, Barry Crane, a few other people. Jill Thompson was involved. There's a lot of famous. I want to say famous because I'm really not a fan of it. A lot of talented people that are from Chicago who are comic artists. We would all just hang out at the time. Alex was one of them. Jill Thompson was another. Barry Crane is another guy who's a phenomenal artist who does work mostly behind the scenes. Hillary Barda. I'm name dropping here just because these guys they deserve credit. I mean, there's a lot of great people here that do a lot of amazing work, and it's just Chicago has a really great scene. A lot of people leave it, and I've been involved not only in the comic scene and the video game scene, but also the music scene. And there's a lot of people who end up having to leave Chicago and become famous elsewhere, which is kind of sad in a way. But a lot of times there's a camaraderie here in Chicago of people who gravitate towards each other, who are creative, and we find each other somehow, and then we work together, and everybody ends up becoming their own entity and their own style, and it just kind of they drift to other areas. But I think Chicago's got a great creative community here that's been around and alive since the '80s, since I was a teenager running around trying to get into nightclubs, on a fake ID. I would know all these people. It's just a lot of talented work that comes out of here, and today with the internet the way it is, where everything connects people, you got Spain here representing, and you have Australia representing, and Germany and Florida. I mean, you have this conglomeration now of people connecting on another level that is sort of, again, to me, this will probably be my favorite memory in the future of meeting people who are just as cool and doing stuff locally. Now I'm meeting them internationally and virtually. That's so cool. That's another level. And this is during, I'm in my 40s now, so this is during like my pre-Twilight years. So it's still nice to be able to have that joy and love for something and not have to say, well, you got to put away those childish things. And no, you don't want to be caught up in not being a responsible adult, but at the same time you still want to have that wonder that a child has when you create or when you see something and you enjoy it and you love it because there's love behind it. You want to have the not feeling or looking like an idiot or a weak person because you're interested in something that's nerdy. I like that those barriers are breaking down because they need to. It's just that stigma shouldn't exist.
Right.
Yeah, I like the fact too that it's now cool to be into comics and video games. It doesn't have to be this thing it doesn't have to be like a guilty pleasure that you hide from the world. You just embrace it. You can be yourself.
Or like a phase you grow out of,
Yeah.
Right.
We'll never grow out of that.
No, and I hope more walls get broken down because there's a lot of you have different backgrounds, different genders, different ethnicities, and that all that stuff should be. I don't get why people are so harping on that. Where it should just be you look at it for what it is. You look at it for the creation of it, not who creates it necessarily, because there's just too much judgment that goes behind the messenger versus the message. And I think we're too caught up in that.
Change the subject. A lot of us hardcore fans who on the stream right now collect like business cards of important people related to Mortal Kombat. Like we've got the business card for Galloping Ghost. Yep. Do you have a business card?
Yes, I actually do. I have them. Where do I have them? I could send you guys copies if you want. I got a whole box of them, but they're
yeah.
Let me fish one out.
Drop some off at the hotel for me, man.
It's cool.
I think I'm in your neighborhood, Andy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I for me there was a phase I was into tokusatsu. I don't know if you could see that.
Oh my gosh!
It's the kind of stuff that the Power Rangers were based on, and I made my own card of that, and I have a box of this stuff, so I can hand out these cards if you want, for sure, anytime. You want me to mail them to you, if you want me to hand them to you, either way, I don't mind. I have a whole slew of them.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I guess just drop them off at the hotel for Ryan, and Ryan will deliver them all to us, because you don't want to have to send them out to Australia and Malta and Luxembourg.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to mail them off. That's totally
very
fine.
cool, Ryan. Yeah, I'll hand you a bunch. I'll look at you with that. The sticker. Is that a tattoo or is that a busince card?
It's a NetherRealm Studios business card.
Oh, nice. It almost looks like a
that
tattoo.
I got when I was back at the good books with them.
Nice.
I got this business card from a guy at Combat Fun.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
I recognize that. That's really cool.
That's very cool. Old school stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I think as an artist you'll appreciate this. Dan did something really cool with his room. Dan, show us what happens when you were turning the lights off. Andy hasn't seen that. Andy wasn't here earlier when you were doing this.
Oh, the eyes. Very cool. And that's so
Arnie.
That's awesome.
That is very cool. Yeah, I love things like that glow in the dark. When I was a kid, I wanted to work in a factory that made glow in the dark stuff. So yeah, it was.
I had all the stars
That's
on
so
them.
cool. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, Andy, if I don't know how far the Wyndham Grand Chicago Riverfront is from where you are. Is that far from you?
The Chicago Grand Hotel?
Yeah, the Wyndham Grand. It's on East Upper Wacker Drive.
Isn't that near the Trump building?
Yeah, it's right across Trump Tower.
I know where that's at. I actually I might be in that area later today. If anything, we can talk to each other off camera, and I could coordinate something with you.
Yeah, you can just walk into the hotel. I work the front desk, so just walk in and be like, "Hey, Ryan."
Oh, okay. If anything, since parking is a little bit of a difficulty there, if you don't mind running out, I could just double park real quick and you just run out and grab it. I don't know if you can get away from your desk though, can you?
We'll set up a time on Facebook to do it, but I'll just tell valet to let you park because I'm good with that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome to be valet. Yeah, we'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Hook up.
I'll get you the hookup for sure, man. But I mean, I really want to say thanks again for coming on and staying with us. I know we kept you a lot longer than expected.
You know, see, here's the thing with people who are, like I said, with people who are into this stuff, and you reminisce about with different cultural, pop culture things. It just time gets lost. I didn't even notice it was an hour. Honestly, it was just time was moving quickly, and that's what usually happens when you're into stuff. Yeah, exactly. Look. Justin's like, I don't know what's going on.
We're happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the love of the craft, and it's just like being when you're creative, you lose sense of time. When you're playing a game and you're enjoying it, you lose sense of time, and that's just I lost sense of time because it was fun. So it's my pleasure.
Yeah, we'll have to get you on, Andy. Like maybe a few more times. We'd love to have you.
Oh, sure. I'd love to, as I'm producing new stuff and showing off new stuff. Yeah, I'd love to have behind the scenes stuff like, oh, what are you working on? And oh, this is something maybe that people can appreciate. You know, people who would appreciate something new that's being created. Yeah, I would love to show that stuff out.
Would we see you at the next Combat Con?
Yeah, I would love to go. The next one, I don't know when it is, but obviously it's going to be sometime in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to attend, and Doc is always pushing to get me going. So it's on me. It's not on him and anybody else, but it's up to me to be able to just coordinate that with my life. And if I could coordinate, I'd love to see you guys there if you're gonna go. Yeah, and if you're going, just let me know because I know I think most of you are on my Facebook list. I know Rodney, Luke, and John's. Justin, are you also? I don't know.
I don't have a Facebook yet.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and that's
Gotta get on that. I keep telling you.
Dragon Thinking about getting one now, actually.
However you want to stay in touch is cool with me. So yeah, I mean, if you guys are gonna go, let me know, and I'll definitely show up there.
Do you have a Twitter?
I do have a Twitter, but I usually keep it quiet only because I maintain it for family stuff, and I don't really push the angle there. But if anything,
I couldn't find it.
yeah. But if anything, we could figure out a way to stay in touch, whether it be through Skype even.
Yeah. Like they say in Jurassic Park, life finds a way.
Exactly, life finds a way. No, you're totally right. I'm all about the evolution. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Oh man, but yeah, I mean, I guess I have another question for you. I mean, is there? I know they might have already kind of asked this a little bit, but is there any way, like, maybe there could be like some of the stuff here, like the MK Special Forces logo? Is there any way for you to kind of get that out there? Like, or do you think Warner Brothers would be like try to shut that down?
You mean like putting it out as a file, a digital file, or printing it? I mean, maybe putting it out as a digital file, people can see it. I don't see what the problem would be with that. I don't know. Honestly, the legal ramifications of that was something that was developed in '98. So I don't know what because the company is kind of liquidated. I don't know if that was part of the deal. I don't know, honestly.
Because I would just love to see you, like, maybe put a picture of that Special Forces logo out there, because that would be neat, and maybe some of the other stuff too, you know, and just tweet it out there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's promotion for the game and promoting the behind the scenes work, but I don't know what the legal ramifications may be. That's out of my element, as is most of the people. It's to me, I consider the legal world kind of an occult thing, because it's a language you have to learn, and it creates a reality based on words, you know. And it, to me, it's like the closest you could come to magic, you know.
Yeah.
It's just nasty business.
True.
Yeah.
It's true.
It
I've had a
really
few
is.
court dealings recently.
Yeah. You know.
But I would love to send you guys a copy of it if you want to see it, and put it somewhere available.
We would appreciate that, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're all interested in that. I mean, that was one of those games where, despite how the final product turned out, there's a lot of interest in the original version that John Tobias and his team had cooked up with a playable version of Sonya that they had at E3 at the demo. I know a lot of people are interested in seeing how the original game was supposed to play out.
Yeah, that's stuff that they were working on at the time. That was just, it was beyond me, because I was working on different projects during that time. But it would be interesting to see if, you know, what else was there, what else could have been, because that's all fascinating stuff. You do want to see what could have been, and it's sort of like a time travel thing, right? You want to see another angle that could have existed, like the death of Superman, you know, with Nicolas Cage playing Superman would have been amazing.
Yeah, they did a whole documentary, I think, on HBO just about that.
It's John Schnepp. He's the guy who did it.
Yeah.
He's actually another guy I know, and he's a character, a really creative guy. But he's the creator of Metalopolis. It's the cartoon that had the metal theme to it.
I think it is Metalopolis.
Metalopolis? I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it was a cartoon with metal theme to it, and he pushed the death of Superman. But that's sort of the angle that it would be cool to see, like what would have been, what could have been, and I like that documentary came out just to show that proof of possible reality, you know.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And some other questions I have for you. You may not know the answers to these, but
okay,
maybe you do. Is there a playable version of MK Special Forces that maybe John Tobias kept?
Not that I'm aware of. There may be people. I know there's people who around the project that might have saved those things. I don't want to name names, only because I don't want to incriminate anybody. But I would think that maybe there might be one that exists somewhere. But yeah, I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. I know there was a demo somewhere that somebody got a hold of Marvel, the Marvel the sandbox game that was going to come out at EA Chicago. So I wouldn't find it far-fetched for somebody to have gotten a hold of that Special Forces somewhere. But it was so back then, like Luke was saying, keeping stuff on hard drive was very difficult because they were bulky, they were big, and they didn't hold a lot of information. So I don't know if anybody has that somewhere.
That would be cool to see if someone were to just anonymously leak it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
to leak it and have it function on something, because there probably will be that speed bump of trying to get it to actually run, which will be different. You know, I would find difficult.
Oh, I don't think that would be a challenge at all, especially for the people.
Right.
I think
somebody
we're
like
video game nerds. We all have PlayStation emulators installed on our laptops. You know.
Yeah, there's life finds a way, and there's gonna. These guys will create something, you know. If it's there, somebody will do something with it. That's the fascinating part of the world the way it is now.
That's awesome. And then my next question is Ed Boon had tweeted this out on Twitter. There was an original prototype of MK1, and it did not have Sonya in it. Do you know if that prototype exists or is out there?
That I was not aware of, and that I find fascinating, but I'm not sure. Oh, I saw Art pop up.
Rich.
Yep.
Do we
Rich
have
Divizio?
Rich? Do we have Rich?
You see me or no?
No, you gotta hit
yet.
there's a camera icon. Push that to put you in.
It's on the bottom. If you look on the bottom where it has the microphone and the phone symbol, there's a little icon that looks like a camera. I had the problem.